It's The Verdict, where we're giving you live coverage of the 2019 elections, which we now know has been postponed for about a week. Now, we've been having this conversation about reactions and how everyone is taking the news. And let me go to Mr. Tokbe Fashua over there in Abuja. Just give us your reaction, your initial reaction when you heard, and then how you're going to re-strategize now that there's another 1 week.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Basically, I was surprised, caught me unawares. Actually, I came in from Benin yesterday because I've been doing my campaigns down to the wire. And I vote in Abuja, usually. And, of course, I just shut down everything. But by the time I woke up around 5 or 4:30 this morning, I saw that the news had been circulating that the election had been postponed. I was surprised, but in another sense, I wasn't surprised because I'm sorry, what we've seen under this government in general is a total level of mediocrity, a scenario where everything gets shot to pieces. I mean, they could hardly boil a piece of egg successfully. And it's unfortunate because 4 years ago we had elections. The Nigerian population hasn't grown that much. Maybe you'd have added about at most 15 million people since then. And here we are, we can't even get something started and get it concluded. Now, let me say that I've also studied some of the reasons put forward. It is true that there's a big mist around Nigeria right now. I was to travel to Kano on the 11th of this month by flight. That had to be cancelled for some reason, and then I ended up going to Owerri that same day by flight. And I was meant to fly out of Benin, but all that was also cancelled. But there are some states, I mean, if INEC knew that this was the case, I mean, they had several days for them to plan ahead and know how to get materials to those places. Now, the problem on ground now is that some of the states probably have the materials. What do you do with that? How do we control that? What happens? In the postponement for 7 days, a lot of things could happen, and I'm very apprehensive. But I will also not put it only at the doorstep of APC. There's this other gentleman next to me here, Frank Shaib, of the PDP. Our people say, Yoruba ule lumese ule to lori akpata, as in, they are saying that they know the shenanigans of PDP, I mean of APC, but it's perhaps because of the legacies that they put on ground themselves. We are coming from a much more innocent and much more, objective perspective. And what we're on about is to say that, look, whatever the case may be, don't do a disservice to Nigerians. We have to have this vote. We have to test our strength, and we have to go for this, So I don't know about all of the things that these guys are talking about. All we want is the Nigerians. We need to do this vote. And we're going to keep our eyes on the ball. We live in a world of information technology now, and information flows freely. Whatever information we have, we're disseminating to our people. Whatever shenanigans some of these guys are up to, we're not up for that whatsoever. And luckily, international observers are here, local observers are here, and everybody's seeing what's going on.
Okay, Mr. Fashua, let me just put you on pause there and see whether other people agree with your perspective. We have our correspondent, Loretta Chogo. I mean, she's been going around trying to gather the pulse and the mood of Nigerians. And let's see whether they agree with you on your view.
I'm speaking to you from Magboro. It's a border town between Lagos and Ogun State. And if you look behind me, you find some eligible voters who we met here on ground as early as some minutes to 7 o'clock. And they told us that they were ready to cast their ballots, but are rather disappointed that the elections have been postponed. However, some others share mixed feelings. They take it in good faith and believe that many Nigerians will be out again by next week to cast their ballot for their choice leaders. Let's hear from them.
So in my opinion, there is no ability, it is impossible to say that on the day of election, INEC, which Independent National Electoral Commission, to postpone that election. In my thinking, I think that just they try to do election malpractice or something associated with that. That is what makes them to postpone that election. That is what I think about that postponing election. So, in my choice, allow people to do election this time around, as they put it on 16 February. this is no good to say that election was postponed today, while a lot of people doesn't know that election was postponed today. Am I right? Me, I feel sadness. I'm not happy about that postponing election.
But everybody have put mind that it will be voting today. But now that they have postponed it to last week, they put everything in the hand of God. God should help us. I think everybody will be out next week to vote because everybody loves Nigeria and everybody want to vote because everybody has their own choice to vote for.
We move to another location. This time, this man is unaware that the election has been postponed.
Just this night. Why haven't they tell us yesterday morning, Friday morning, that it will be postponed so that we should, all of us should go to our go and have our dinner today? We are surprised, all of us. We are ready. But today's own is, it gives us something. I don't know how I will put it now. We are surprised. So we don't know what it means for them, not we.
I think it is inefficiency on the part of INEC, which translates to inefficiency on the part of the government, because people had made plans. For example, weddings that were meant for today had been postponed till next week and further on because of this election. And now arrangements have been made, money spent. Are we saying that we should put our lives on hold because we need to elect leaders? These are salient issues that we must address so that we shouldn't have this kind of issues happening again.
Recall that in 2011, election was postponed in Nigeria due to some logistical challenges, according to INEC. That same year, voters had trooped out to their various polling and voting units to cast their ballots, and the election process was already ongoing when the announcement came that election had been postponed. And in 2015, the same process repeated itself. According to INEC, the elections would be postponed for 6 weeks due to the insecurity challenges in the northeast. Again, Nigeria is experiencing another postponement of election here 2019. Voters were already on ground to cast their ballots, and some have shared mixed reactions concerning this current situation. From Magboro, Ogun State, Loretta Chiogo, Channels Television News.
Well, Mr. Gala, let me bring it back to you. I mean, this is something you were saying earlier, that some people might not have social media and might end up coming out. But one thing that struck me was the different reasons why and the different allegations that are flying up and down, which is dangerous at a time like this.
Well, you see, this is just 9:30. At this time, one should expect people to be still angry. At this time, one should expect tempers to still be flaring. I mean, these are persons who, like the gentleman with the baby said, if they had told us we would have gone about our normal businesses, it's a lot of damage to the economy, people's psyche, things there. I mean, I'm sure there are people who might have even scheduled weddings and other activities for next week. No, even those, I'm even looking ahead.
Postponed.
Even looking ahead for next week, for March 9, there are a lot of things that would have been. So it is only natural to expect the anger at this time. But I'm sure as the day winds down, when we now start individually to try to digest. I mean, you just show clips of youth coppers on the floor, sleeping in open fields. You saw some inside the Danfo buses and all of that. So it just confirms that INEC, as it were, would appear unprepared. But you see, what should be of concern to me? Because, I mean, like I said, everyone ought to be disappointed. What advantage does it confer on anybody? Any of the political
allegations
parties
out there of the advantages are many.
Yeah, well, any of the parties. I'm trying very hard not to attack parties and all that like my colleagues on the other side are doing, wanting to hit parties. One side, APC, SLO, Olelomo, SLO, and all of that. No, that for me is not the issue. The issue is about Nigeria and it's democracy.
What of the issue people are bringing up that this is deja vu? From 2011,
yes.
This is the pattern. This has been the trend. And when you say people are angry now and it's expected, are we supposed to get used to this? I know that's the question. Should we be putting our minds like that?
I don't think I've suggested any such thing. I said people are angry, and they have a right to be angry. It's more so when, like you rightly said, it happened in the past, so it's like, what have we learned? So people have a right, and I'm not happy. I can't be happy about this.
You already indicated
I can't be happy.
I'm sorry, Mr. Guy, just a second. Now, Frank, there's something to be said for this. Let's leave out partisanship and examine the issue. There are pictures of election materials which are just arriving in the areas where they were supposed to be distributed. You yourself saw on our screens a couple of seconds ago, and that had been sent to a lot of people yesterday night, of youth corpers who were trained and are supposed to serve as ad hoc staff at the polling centers, sleeping in buses, sleeping on the open field, making do, basically, because the facilities that they were supposed to have are not in place. I mean, if we just take those two examples and look at it from that viewpoint, in terms of the postponement, is it not better, especially if we're asking for a free, fair, credible election, to put all in place? I mean, there's enough blame to go around, but having put that on the ground, moving forward now, does it not make more sense from your perspective?
Well, thank you very much. For me, I would say it doesn't. It doesn't because there are so many things, and the people are used to it. They say, you see, it's not just about the election. The people of Nigeria have been going through this in the last 4 years. So in the last 3.5 years or 4 years, thereabout. So it's nothing new to them. But fundamentally, we're talking of an organization and a government that had almost 4 years to plan this election and got over 200 billion to fund this election. So they had all the time in the world. Let me give you a working hypothesis. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board conducts examinations all over the country in 1 day, though for a smaller percentage of the Nigerian population. But don't forget too that those who write out the examination are within the voting age. A majority of them are within the voting age. And they do so successfully. You know, we have not had cases of this kind of postponement, this kind of action. You know, but we raised this alarm before now that this was going to happen. INEC came out to say, no, we are not, nothing like this is going to happen. So but for us, like, that's why I started by saying it didn't come to us like as a surprise, because we picked intelligence that it was going to happen. So they prepared to fail.
Now that it has happened,
but we would not lay blame on INEC.
Now that it has happened, what are your thoughts on the current situation? What should happen now? I mean, what should happen now? I mean, yes, it's happened.
Yes, my thoughts are simple. If we must, yes, it has happened. Now, if the government of Nigeria is sincere, what should happen is simple. Our children have been out of school since Wednesday because there was a unanimous position by school proprietors and the federal government or the managers of the educational system that, okay, the midterm break, because it fell within the midterm break period, they used the midterm break window to keep the children at home, which is safe for us as parents. Now, election is next weekend. Civil servants traveled from all over Nigeria back to their respective homes where maybe they registered and all that. Now, do we expect them to return to where they work or where they traveled from with the lean purse, with monies that they do not have, to return and go back next week to go and run elections? The simple way out is this. If the government of Nigeria is sincere, then all they need to do, at least they know that businesses have been lost, monies have been lost by several persons, so many other persons, you know, design programs to hold today and had to shift it because of the elections. So what do we do? How do we move forward? Simple. There should be a window where civil servants, for instance, who are a major voting bloc, especially the Nigerian workforce, are allowed to stay back in their respective homes to come and run elections to vote on Saturday. If not, we'll end up disenfranchising the people. That's the problem, because they don't even have the money to take them home in the first place. And because they needed their voting power to change the economy, to change their situation, that's why a majority of them traveled home to go and vote. So if we allow this action to stay in this way, without any palliative from government, especially with an economy like
okay, sorry, Mr. Schweib, let me just put you on hold there. Let me put you on hold briefly. Let's go to our correspondent, Gimba Omar. We understand he's in the Falamo area of Lagos, and he has some reactions for us. But Gimba, just give us the mood where you are now, Gimba.
Well, if while we wait for Gimba, again, Frank makes a valid point, a number on which Mr. Ogala had spoken about earlier, which is that people are angry. Yeah. People ought to be angry because it spoils a lot of plans. There are a number of
I think Gimba is ready now. Are you there, Gimba? Okay, we're going to go back. You were saying that.
I was saying that, you know, that the point Frank makes about civil servants having traveled to areas, although, again, people have been told to stay close to where you are, either domiciled or work, in order to be able to, but it doesn't always work out because people prefer to be around their homes, although one again is not sure. Mr. Ogala, I don't know if, for example, the idea that workers should be allowed to stay back, especially those who traveled, should be allowed to stay back because the finances to return tomorrow, maybe, or Monday.
Stay back for the entire week.
Yes, to vote next week. That's what Frank said.
Yeah, well, that is his own.
That's what Frank said.
I'm just at a loss as to how you are going to take the census of workers who have moved